And so we are now being recorded. Just a reminder, this will be um, placed on, or a link to it will be placed on the District 44 website for those that have missed it. And we'll do that. Let me introduce myself and my co-presenter for tonight. My name is Mark Teagle, and I'm the umpire in chief for District 44. There's a rather dated picture of me, and joining me tonight is Jim Maleris, who is a District 44 staff umpire. Both Jim and I have regional umpiring experience. We've been doing this for a long time. Jim also does high school and college ball. I have done high school softball in the past. I've also done Little League Softball World Series. So we've got a couple of experienced instructors here, and we'll be glad to show you through all of this. We're going to be talking about three aspects of umpiring, one of which is the rules. Then the mechanics, that's the positioning, where you need to be on the field, how to set up to be the plate umpire, to be the base umpire. And then the third aspect is game management. So the rules we'll cover tonight and Saturday night. The mechanics we've been covering at our on the field mechanics clinics. And game management is something that is kind of woven together, but we'll be talking about that. But good rules knowledge can really help with game management. You're there to keep the game moving, to make it fair, to make it baseball. And that's what we're really looking for as we go forward. We're going to be talking tonight about educating new umpires. It's also a refresher for those who are experienced. Every year, you got to kind of shake off the rust of you have in the off season, and it's also a good resource for managers and coaches and parents. Umpires sometimes joke that coaches don't necessarily know the rules. They don't necessarily crack the rule book, but there are some that are very, very good at that. And you want to respect that. But it's also, you need to know the rule as the umpire because you might be the only one who does. And if there are parents out there that want to attend this, we welcome them. Maybe they're future umpires, but we want people to really understand what's going on in the game, the nuances of it, and that's part of the goals for tonight's presentation. So we ask that you keep your camera off. That will just allow the bandwidth to be going towards the presentation. We're going to be showing some videos, and everything runs smoother if we can dedicate that bandwidth to playing what we have for you. Please keep your microphone off throughout the evening. At the very end, when we're done, we'll allow people to turn their microphones on if they want to ask questions. But the chat is available, and we'll be monitoring that. So if you have a salient question, to put it in the chat, we'll try to get to it as best we can. But this is a lot of material to cover. We have only an hour and a half tonight. So we will be trying to answer those questions, bring them into the discussion. We're also going to do some polling. So there's a scenario, and we'll say, was that fair or foul? Was he out or safe? Maybe there's going to be 3 or 4 options, and we'll bring those up, and people will vote, and then we'll see what people think. And that just, makes it a little more interactive as we're going along.
Mark, I got to unshare for just a moment here.
Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Thank you. That's Jim's voice, and you could see his picture. I would suggest you put on your view, presenter or speaker view. That way you can see the person who's talking more clearly as we go along. But you'll all get the hang of it as we go along.
All right.
And we're up to 57 people in the meeting now, so that's great. So here's what's in the rule book. or now the app. And by the way, if you don't have the app, it's free. Go to the App Store or to Google Play, get the Little League Rules app. It automatically updates every year. But as umpires, the things that we're most interested in are a couple of regulations, especially about pitching and field decorum. And then when we get into the rules, these rules follow the old numbering system that Major League Baseball used to use in their rules. Rule one, objectives of the game, then definitions. And if you can't find it anywhere else, look in definitions. Game preliminaries, stuff you do before the game. Starting and ending the game in rule four. Putting the ball in play, live ball and dead ball situations in rule five. And then it breaks down things having to do with the batter, the runner, the pitcher, and finally the umpire. So we're going to cover a lot of that today. We obviously won't get to everything, but we'll try to cover as much as we can in 2 nights. And I think we do a pretty good job of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about things covering have to do with the umpire. Judgment calls are final. Examples of that are balls and strikes, fair foul, safe, and out. Those are the umpire's judgment. But if there is an illegal interpretation of a rule, that might be or may be protested. And there's a way to do that that's outlined in that rule. So just be aware of that. Judgment calls not protestable, and but a misinterpretation of any rule could be grounds for protest. We also don't overrule another umpire's call. You're not required to check with your partner, but you can. If you're blocked out, if you didn't have a great angle, they may be able to give you information to maybe change your call, but it's the whoever's call it is, that's who it sticks with. If you have a play at first base, it is the base umpire's call. The plate umpire doesn't overrule them. They might give them more information, maybe on a pulled foot or a swipe tag, something like that, but it remains that umpire's call. Very important. All right, we have some rule updates, and this year there are a bunch of them, and some of them I like a lot. But first one is alterations or things that are added to a bat, like choke knobs, choke up assists, thumb protectors. Those are now considered alterations to the bat, not permitted. Catchers can use a thumb protector in their glove when they're on defense, but nothing that goes on the bat. So it should just be the bat off the shelf, is what is there. The neoprene sleeves for a pitcher are now legal as long as they are a solid color and not white or gray. So if they're bright orange and camouflage, that's still not legal. But now we're not going to be policing the sleeves on a pitcher. If they've got it, we're going to just go with it unless we rule it to be distracting in our judgment. Jewelry is now allowed. We don't have to be the jewelry police anymore. Uh,
Yay. That's
yeah.
real change.
And now pitchers cannot wear jewelry on their throwing arm or distracting items on either arm. But if you feel that the jewelry might pose an injury risk to them or to anybody else, we can ask them to remove it. But we are not worried about jewelry anymore as umpires. So those are some of the updates. Here are some more. Stickers are now allowed on helmets if they're not excessive, not offensive, and they don't make inappropriate references such as to drugs or alcohol. Still no tape on helmets. There's other things that could make a helmet illegal that we'll talk about. And then just a clarification that if you're using the continuous batting order, which we do in most of our games, players do not need to meet the running portion of a mandatory play. So they could be replaced as a runner, particularly as a courtesy runner for the catcher or the pitcher, without having to do the running to meet their mandatory play during regular season. And the courtesy runner must be the player who made the last out. We're also differentiating between continuous batting order and bat nine. That's where you have nine players in the batting order and then substitutes who could come in. And in that situation, a player may not be used as a courtesy runner more than once per game. We're generally only going to see bat nine at the senior level. Maybe some leagues will have an option of using it at the major level, but for the most part, we're going to be seeing continuous batting order as umpires, even in All Stars. All right. And more updates. Umpires are no longer asked to uh, inspect the equipment before the game. So it's up to the managers to make sure that their equipment meets Little League rules and standards. We're not going to be checking it before the game. But if an umpire does see something that is illegal during the game, then they can deal with it at that point. We're also going to be allowing a one-way communication from the bench to the catcher while a team is on defense. One-way electronic communication devices like you see at the major leagues. Um, and then there is more information about what to do when you find an illegal bat. And we shouldn't have to worry about that too much. It's been a while since we've had the new bat rules, but it's a pretty steep penalty for use of an illegal bat. So we want to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jim for the next talking about the equipment.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Yeah, so we're going to talk about legal equipment, starting with bats. So now this has been in place for a little while, so it shouldn't be a surprise for anybody. But non-wood bats and laminated bats have to have the USA Baseball logo on it. That means it's met the USA Bat standard. An example of that is on the picture on the right. A solid one-piece wood barrel bat does not require a USA Baseball logo. So that's the entire bat has to be wood to not have that logo. So if it's a hybrid bat, the type that has a wood barrel, but then a composite handle, that has to have the USA Baseball logo on it. The diameter should not exceed 2 5/8 inches. That's kind of considered a big barrel bat. I don't think that any mass-produced bats are bigger than that. The length majors has to be 33 inches and shorter, and intermediate and juniors can be up to 34 inches long. Now, pine tar has been not legal for a while now. So pine tar and any other adhesive type substances are not allowed at any level of baseball. And as Mark mentioned, a new rule change this year is the add-ons to the bats. Things like the choke-up knobs and the thumb protectors are considered alterations to the bat and are not permitted anymore. So if you're an umpire and you see somebody walking up to the plate with any of those add-ons or a thumb protector, just have them change the bat out or take it off the bat before they use it.
A quick note, Jim, about pine tar is it's not only not allowed on the bat, but it's not allowed on a helmet or any other part of your equipment.
Yeah, good clarification. Thanks, Mark. Yeah. Helmets. So there should be no cracks. It shouldn't be painted. As Mark mentioned, there should be no pine tar on the helmet. The padding, it should be properly attached. Sometimes you see it dangling out and it's damaged or it's missing. or they're using tape to hold the padding on. You cannot have any of that. The padding needs to be properly attached. The jaw guard is okay. It has to come from the same manufacturer, or if it's from a different manufacturer, you need a letter from the helmet manufacturer authorizing that third-party jaw guard onto their helmet. And this is a modification of the rules this year. Decals are okay as long as they're not offensive or excessive. This helmet example is pretty well decaled out, but nothing that would be considered excessive. That should not be mirror-like. That is still an illegal helmet. A mirror-like surface helmet is still illegal. So that's it on batting helmets. We'll go to the catcher's helmet. Should be no cracks, no decals, and no paint on the catcher's helmet. Once again, padding should be properly attached, not missing, damaged, or held on by tape. The cage should not be bent or cracked. Should be properly attached with screws as well. And so if you see that the catcher is using a helmet that looks like it's missing some of the screws, have them swap it out for a different catcher's helmet. And in all levels of Little League, the dangling type throat guard is required. This has not changed, and this applies all the way up to seniors. So they have to wear the dangling type throat guard. And skull caps, which you see a lot in college and in pro ball, those are not permitted. Now that catcher's helmet, that legal catcher's helmet with the dangling type throat guard is required during the game. Whenever they're warming up a pitcher, either on the field or in the bullpen, or when there's any form of infield or infield outfield practice going on, usually before a game. And I can tell you when I walk up to too many games before the first pitch is thrown and the teams are still completing their in-outs, too often the catchers are not wearing their helmet. And so make sure that if you're a coach and you're on this, that your kids are wearing that helmet during your in-outs. All right, here's our first vote of the night. So we have 4 examples of helmets here, A, B, C, and D. And so which one is legal for Little League, and more to the point, which is the best option for Little League? All right. So Mark, you want to put that vote up?
All right, votes are rolling in. Choose one of those. I don't think I have it enabled that you could choose more than one, but that could
Yeah.
be the case that more than one would be okay. Well, we're gonna reveal the results.
Yeah, that's a good identification. Options A and C are not legal. Um, they're not allowed. The A doesn't have the dangling throat protector, and C doesn't have the throat protector, but it's also a skull cap. Those are not allowed in Little League. D is okay, but that dangling throat guard is over 2 inches extended below the bottom of the helmet. And so that actually is kind of a danger because a ball could easily get up in there. So option B is the best. That dangler is nice and tight underneath the bottom of that catcher's helmet. Yeah. All right. There we go.
Oh,
All right.
yeah, continue on, Jim.
I was going to say, Mark's going to take us into the pitching. Oh,
Okay,
no, I got this. Sorry about
you've
that.
got it. Yeah.
I got this. I can't get this poll off my screen, so I'm having a hard time with this. I gotta close this out here. Sorry. So pitchers, the undershirt sleeves, including the compression sleeves, if exposed, shall be a solid color and not be white or gray. Um, that we touched on earlier. They cannot be white or gray. No items on the hands, wrists, or arms, such as sweatbands, tape, rubber bracelets, or any other jewelry, other than the play calling band. A play calling band is allowed to be worn by a pitcher, but it has to be on their non-throwing or glove arm. And it has to be a solid color. And what's intended by that isn't that the surface where the plays are is a solid color. It's the actual strapping that holds it onto the arm is a solid color. And sleeve length should be approximately the same length. The pitcher's glove, exclusive of piping, should not be white or gray, or in the judgment of the umpire, distracting in any manner. And I've had some gloves removed that have fluorescent colors on them that can be distracting, but no white or gray ever. Batting gloves beneath the fielding gloves should not be white or gray or optical yellow. All right. And a pitch. Uh, a pitch is a baseball is delivered to the batter by the pitcher. Um, a pitch can also be added to the pitcher's pitch count for things like an illegal pitch or an intentional walk, where it's the verbal intentional walk. And so any added balls to tally 4 balls to get to the walk count, they're added to the pitcher's count. So if a pitcher has thrown 2 pitches to a batter and it's a 2-0 count, and now the coach just wants to intentionally walk that batter, you'll add 2 more pitches to the pitch count. You want to make sure the scorekeeper knows to add those additional pitchers to the pitcher's pitch count. So catchers were moving to a pitcher. A player may not play the position of catcher for more than 4 innings, for 4 or more innings, and be eligible to pitch that same day. So if a catcher catches for the first 3 innings and they go out there and catch for 1 pitch in the 4th inning, they have at that point become ineligible to move to the pitcher. They don't have to complete the entire 4th inning to become ineligible. All they have to do is receive that 1 pitch in the 4th inning to become ineligible to pitch. There's another way that they can that this impacts them. That's if they play the position of catcher for 3 innings or less, and move to the pitcher and deliver 21 pitches or more in the same day, and then return to the catcher position in the same day. They cannot do that if they've exceeded that 21 pitches. There is an exception. So if they are facing a batter and they hit that 20 pitch limit while facing the batter, then they can finish out that batter and still remain eligible to go pitch or to go back to catch. All right. Now, pitcher moving to a catcher. This is a little more straightforward. If a pitcher reaches a pitch count of 40 pitches, they may not play the position of catcher unless covered by an exception, which is if they reach that 40 pitch limit while facing a batter, that means that batter had to have started with less than 40 pitches on the pitcher's pitch count. Anyway, the pitcher can continue to pitch and finish out that at bat and maintain their eligibility to play the position of catcher for the remainder of the day. Now, visits. These are defensive timeouts. Um, and in majors, you're allowed one visit per inning to an individual pitcher. The second time you visit that pitcher, that individual pitcher in that inning, that pitcher needs to be removed. Uh, Pitchers are allowed two visits across the course of a game. The third time the manager or coach goes out to talk to that pitcher, or I should say, the third time there's a defensive timeout, um, then that pitcher has to be removed. In minors, you add one additional visit on a per inning or per game before the pitcher needs to be removed. Uh, the coach does not need to talk to the pitcher. The coach can go out and talk to any position player. He can go talk to his catcher, but anytime that the coach asks for a timeout to talk to the defense, that is considered a visit to the pitcher. Defense is never charged a timeout for an injury. If you are an umpire and there's a potential injury, you want to go over there and monitor the conversation to make sure that there's no strategy being talked about between the coach and any of the players when he's out there checking on the health of any of their players that may be injured. So, but there's no timeout for that. A few other pitching limitations. Majors and below, a pitcher once removed from the mound cannot return as a pitcher. The manager must remove the pitcher when the pitcher reaches the limit for his or her age group. The details of those rules are in the rule book. There's also know your day's rest if you're a coach. You should be well aware of that. There's the exception. If a pitcher pitches to a limit while facing a batter, the pitcher may continue to pitch until the batter reaches base or is retired. The third out is made to complete the half inning, or the pitcher is removed prior to that batter completing their at bat. Anyway, that's the exception. For intermediate and below, a pitcher may not pitch in more than one game in a day. All right.
All right. Thanks, Jim. And just a couple of follow things. With continuous batting order, we're not having to do as much tracking on our lineup card as umpires as we did when we were tracking subs in and out. But you still need to track pitchers and catchers, and you need to be aware of these limits so that you don't have somebody going to pitcher or catcher who is not eligible to. And note in the language there, those are limits for a day. So if you're at in a double header situation, or even if they're finishing a uncompleted game, there's going to be limitations. And then obviously intermediate and below, pitcher cannot pitch in more than one game in a day. But for juniors and seniors, they can, but they're still subject to the limitations of that pitcher to catcher, catcher to pitcher rule. So we're going to talk about batting and the um let's see. Oh wait, this is I started to talk about mandatory play. And so in order for the at bat to count for that batter to make sure they meet their mandatory play, they have to enter the batter's box with a fresh count. Can you think of a situation where they would not have a fresh count? For instance, if somebody were injured in the middle of an at bat and somebody had to take their spot, or if somebody was batting out of order and the next batter were to assume their count, that at bat would not count for the mandatory play for that batter. So these are things to just to be thinking about because mandatory play is an important part of Little League. Everybody plays, everybody has a required playing time. Regular season, it's one at bat and two innings on defense. in the postseason, in the international tournament, it is that one at bat. So they can be pulled from the running portion of their at bat for a substitution, courtesy runner, or special pinch runner. Um, don't have special pinch runner when we're using continuous batting order, but the courtesy runner is still in place, and substitutions happen in bat nine situations. Um, Here's one detail that's there for the bat nine. A player cannot be pulled from running by a substitution, courtesy runner, or special pinch runner. We won't encounter that unless you're umpiring um, seniors, really. On defense, you have to participate in 6 defensive outs before you are substituted for if you're in a bat nine situation. Um, and so that means that it's going to be the bottom of the second for the home team before those substitutions can be done, and top of the third for the visiting team. Subs must play six consecutive defensive outs before their starter re-enters. For a continuous batting order, those defensive outs don't have to be continuous. They can be at any point during the game, and it's up to the manager to make sure their players comply with that requirement. So they could play the first inning on defense. They could then play the fourth inning. That would satisfy their 6 defensive outs. It's a lot of flexibility for a manager in continuous batting order, but they are still required to play 6 defensive outs at some point during the game. So some notes about continuous batting order. It's required in minors, is optional at all other levels. We are suggesting that it be pretty much the standard operating procedure for people, even at juniors. But some leagues will want their major teams to have bat nine. So if that's the case, make sure that is covered at the plate meeting, that the teams doing interlock understand what teams are doing. But in a continuous batting order situation, everybody is in the starting lineup because they're in the batting order. So there's really, you're not subbing for anyone. You're just moving people on and off for defensive purposes, but they are all in the game. So I mentioned this about this defensive outs. They can be entered or re-entered anytime. If a player's injured or becomes ill or has to leave early, we will skip their place in the batting order without penalty. You just continue on. Um, and you follow it up with that person. If they become ill while at bat or running the bases, then you can replace them with the next player in the batting order, or if on need to run the bases, it could be the person who made the last out. If somebody arrives late to the game, they put them at the end of the current lineup. And I mentioned this, you substitute the player that made the last out for an injured runner, and you just play on. There is a courtesy runner for the pitcher and or the catcher, but that's only with 2 outs, and the runner can be the player in the batting order that made the last out. Question from from the chat: if you sub defensive players in the middle of an inning, does it count as a defensive timeout? If you're just sending somebody out to take over, that doesn't count as a defensive visit. But if you come out and talk to your players while you're doing it, then it would be counted as a visit to the pitcher. So if you just call time and say, hey, I'm sending Johnny out to play right field, and the other player comes in, that's not counted as a visit. That just goes as a substitution. And what happens to a player if they're injured during an at bat? The next batter would assume their count. Yeah. And Jim got that answer for you. Offensive timeouts. One offensive timeout per half inning. And so, as a player's coming up to bat, if they stop to talk to their coach for more than just a second, you're going to say, "Hey, coach, is this your time? Are you going to have a conference now?" And they say, "No." They keep them going. But you want to kind of police that, keep the game moving. They should be coming right up. If they want a timeout, they can have it, but that's only one per inning. Now, if let's say the offensive team does call timeout and they're conferencing with their players, the other team can go conference with their pitcher during an offensive timeout as long as it doesn't last any longer than that. If the offensive timeout ends, then the defensive timeout needs to end. Or if they continue on with their talking, then you're going to charge them a visit at that point. Same is true if the defense is visiting with their players. Offensive team can conference with one another, but as soon as that ends, the other one needs to end and keep that game moving. But just be aware that once that the other team's timeout ends, the other team it needs to be ready to get going.
Hey, Mark, Ivan's asked a good question about, say, in the continuous batting order, if a batter gets injured and so you have to sub for him, who would be the sub? Would it be the next batter or somebody else?
So if somebody gets injured while at bat, it is the next batter in the lineup.
The
If
next
they
batter.
get injured while running the bases, then you put the person who made the last out there. Does that answer the question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. And those things are clearly spelled out in the rules. All right. Continuing on, where the batter's feet can go. So, two different things happen. One is where their feet set up before the pitch, and then where their feet can move after the pitch gets started. Before the pitch, you want to make sure that batter's feet are completely within the lines of the batter's box, and the lines are part of the box. So in this diagram, number one is incorrect. Number two is incorrect, but number three, even though that toe is right up to the very edge of that line, that is legal. You see a player squeaking out of that box in any direction, you're going to stop play and you're going to make them fix their feet. So look at this batter. And this is a pretty high level televised game. It's a World Series game. But is he 4 inches from the plate when he's setting up? He is not. It's totally taking away the inside part of the plate from the pitcher. And he needs to be moved back by the umpire. Now, once we're starting with the pitch, if he steps and he is going over the line, that's okay as long as some part of his foot is in that batter's box. But this umpire really should be for fair play. He needs to be fixing this, and this is these players are doing this intentionally. Now, the rule says, Rule 6.06A, the batter is out if he or she hits the pitch fair or foul with one or both feet on the ground entirely outside the batter's box. So in this case, yes, his foot's on the plate, but that really doesn't have any bearing. But his foot is completely outside of the batter's box. It's on the ground. He hits the ball fair and foul. Umpire should kill the play. They don't have to make a play on him, but he or she is out. Now, if that heel had been on the line, then that would be legal. But any part of any foot completely outside the batter's box, that batter is going to be out for illegal action. We're going to define a bunt for you, and this has a lot of stuff that pertains to other rules, whether or not something is a bunt. It is something that is not swung at, but intentionally met, tapped slowly. Mere holding of the bat in the strike zone is not an attempted bunt. They actually have to offer at the pitch. The batter must move the bat in the direction of the pitch. If you bunt foul with 2 strikes, you are out. That counts as strike 3. If you bunt the ball, it cannot be an infield fly. So that is rules it out as an infield fly, and you just play on with that.
But just to be clear, Mark, the infield fly is a specific situation. You can still fly out on a bunt, but this is the infield fly, which we'll go over, I think tomorrow, if not later tonight.
Yes. But just making a decision, especially on that bunting foul for strike 3, and you'll see people doing a drag bunt. They'll be kind of waving at it. Are they swinging it or are they bunting at it? Those are important distinctions as far as ruling on certain plays. And we're also going to define a ball. If you were at the mechanics clinic, this was the first call we learned in Basic 6. It's a pitch that does not enter the strike zone in flight and is not swung at. If it enters the strike zone on a bounce, it's a ball. If there's a check swing, it could be a ball, could be a strike. Depends on whether you ruled it was swung or not. But a ball is pretty simple. If there, I'd go back just a second, Jim. The special situations for a pitch bouncing. It could still be a hit by a pitch if the ball bounces. That doesn't keep it from being that. Maybe makes it a little bit less likely, especially if it's a slow pitch that the batter should be getting out of the way. The batter can still hit a ball that bounces. And if it bounces and is swung at um, and then caught or not caught by the catcher, for majors and above, that's considered a third strike not caught, or sometimes called a drop third strike. So if it bounces, is swung at for strike 3, that uh, still counts as a strike. All right, now we can move on. So in Little League, we can do an intentional walk by just holding up 4 fingers from the dugout, or just saying, I want to walk him. And they don't have to throw the pitches. It can be made at any point in the at bat. Manager should ask for time. If the runners are forced, they would advance. But if we've got a runner at second base and they walk the batter, that doesn't mean anybody else advances if they've got an open base. And then it's very important that those pitches that it takes to get up to 4 balls get added to the pitch count. And you can only intentionally verbally walk someone once per game. So if you remember, well, I'm dating myself, but back when Barry Bonds was intentionally walked a lot in a Little League game, they could only do that once. Now you can still, though, throw 4 pitches outside the strike zone to walk somebody and actually throw those pitches. But those are legal in all divisions. It's just the verbal intentional walk can only be done on a player once in a game. And then let's define a strike since we defined a ball. It needs to be a legal pitch. It can either be struck at and missed, or if not struck at, passes through the strike zone in flight. Can't bounce through to be a strike, but if it goes through any part of the ball, through any part of the strike zone, is considered a strike. If for strike 1 and strike 2, the ball is batted foul, it is a strike, but can't be batted foul for strike 3. But it can be bunted foul for 1, 2, or 3. If the batter is striking at the ball, and the pitch touches the batter, it is a dead ball, but it can still be a strike if the umpire rules that they were swinging at that pitch. Or if the batter is contacted by the ball while the ball and that batter are in the strike zone, then that's considered a strike. And also a foul tip, a ball that goes sharp and direct from the bat to the catcher's hand or glove and is caught, that is a foul tip. And at the mechanics clinic, we learn the signal for that. There's no verbal. You just touch the fingers of your left hand and then make the hammer. And everyone knows you saw it hit the bat, but the catcher caught it. That's a foul tip, and it is a strike. And that one can be strike three, could be any strike. All right. So here is a three-dimensional representation of that strike zone. And that's very similar to what the computer representations are doing now as they add this to spring training games and they have it in AAA ball. There's an electronic strike zone, but you can kind of visualize that. That strike zone is top of the knees to the armpits, anything over the plate, three-dimensional from the front to the back of the plate. And maybe that will help you to kind of visualize that big pentagon shaped polygon that is there. And so it's not just 17 inches wide because that ball is about 2.5 inches wide. So if any part of that ball is over that strike zone, goes through it, that's going to be a strike. Let me turn it back over to Jim as we talk about batting.
Yeah. All right. So as Mark just mentioned, that strike zone is between the armpits and the top of the knees. And that's when the batter's assuming a natural batting stance. Let's watch this video that illustrates somebody who's trying to get away with something.
Santi, as they call him, trying to butt his first time. He popped it to the first baseman, and now he is sitting down, and that's a strike regardless of your stance.
Yep, the announcers nailed it. That is a strike. And so if that batter was maintained as his initial stance before he crouched down, that would have been right up above his belt. And so that was a good call by the umpire to call that a strike. It was not, that was not a natural batting stance that player assumed. It's a strike when the pitch touches the batter, if the batter strikes at the pitch. So let's watch this one.
Only 8 Ks for this team, so
I think he did, didn't he? And even if it does hit him, if he offers that, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so that freeze frame right there is really good because it shows that that bat is moving. It's been moved forward by the batter, and to me, it looks like he is offering at the ball, and so that would have been a strike.
So even
and I think the ball winds up hitting the batter. But for me, it looked like he was offering at the ball. The batter must make an attempt to avoid being touched by a pitch as well. And usually you're going to see batters, when they try to get hit by the ball, they're going to move one of two body parts. They're going to move their elbow through their shoulder into the ball, or they're going to move their knee into the ball. Let's watch some examples of those.
After 30 games.
That one inside and hit him.
He didn't try to get out of the way.
He did not. They're going to keep him right there.
Let's watch him move his leg right into it. And, yep, I want to get hit with it.
It's a good call by the umpire.
percent of the runners that get sacrificed on this team end up scoring. And
oh no,
listen to the home plate umpire.
Watch the camera losing the baseball.
That's the best look at it. That's perfect.
Great call by Scott Klein.
You get back here.
No.
And whenever I can find videos where the announcers are complimenting the umpires, I always try to include those. But that helmet camera from the umpire gave a great view of that batter clearly moving his elbow into the path of the ball. He made no attempt to avoid it. He actually moved his elbow into it. And Jock Peterson, as we saw in the first video, clearly moved his left knee into that slow breaking ball. There, that's a dead ball. You're just going to keep the batter in the box, award a ball if it wasn't in the strike zone. If it was in the strike zone and they got hit with the ball, it's still a dead ball, and it's going to be a strike on the count. And no runners can advance on that. It's dead as soon as the ball touches the batter. Let's watch another one of you must avoid being touched by the ball. And if the ball is in the strike zone when it touches the batter, it should be called a strike. Look at this situation on this is a international game at Little League World Series. It's the 8th inning. They got bases loaded. Japan is down by 2 runs. They need to score at least 1 run to tie the game. And it's a 3-2 count. This is a tense situation.
Ouch, it hit him, or is it a foul?
Oh,
that's what the game is tied on that hit batter.
Is that a strike, though? Is that in the inner part? His hands are over the strike zone. So right here, watch this. Is that a strike?
Yeah, it's absolutely over the plate.
So that's
Yeah. So we got the benefit of replay on this, and so we can see that it's pretty clear that that was going to catch the inside corner. It was in the height of a strike, and so from my seat here in my home office, it looks like a strike, and that should have been strike 3 and second out recorded. So just know that just because the batter got hit doesn't mean that you automatically award the base. If that ball is coming into the strike zone and they get hit by it, then it's still, once again, dead ball, but you charge a strike to the batter. All right, uncaught third strike. This is only going to be in majors and above. It does not apply to minors. The batter becomes a runner on an uncaught third strike, provided that first base is unoccupied or first base is unoccupied with 2 outs. The batter may advance to first base anytime before entering the dugout or any other dead ball area. Once they've done that, they're out for abandoning the opportunity to advance. Uncaught third strike can either be a dropped pitch, a dropped third strike by the catcher, or a ball that bounces in the dirt. And even if the catcher picks it off of the bounce, it's still an uncaught third strike, and they need to make a play on that batter runner to retire him.
Yeah. And Jim, there's a good question in the chat. If the batter swings and gets hit with 2 strikes already on them, is the batter out? And the answer is yes.
Yep.
And also that even if that ball doesn't have to be caught for the uncaught third strike rule.
Yep.
On a hit by pitch, the ball is dead, but that is strike 3 and it is an out.
Yeah. So uncaught third strike, so use the plate umpire. You want to go through some pre-pitch preparation. You always kind of keep in your mind, do you have a runner on first base? Is it occupied? How many outs are there? Is there a runner on third base? Because if you've got a runner on third base, you may have a lot going on because you may have that runner coming charging down to home plate on that drop ball. So a lot to just keep in mind. And right here in this situation, we've got runner on second and 1 out. So in this situation, on a drop third strike, this batter could try to advance to first base.
One gets away. It's a swing and a miss. He will be able to go down to third, and there's no advancement.
Yep. So there we go. They had to make a play on him. First base was unoccupied, so they can make a play by throwing the ball down to first base. They could just tag the batter runner, but they do need to make an attempt on a play. I'm going to go back, restart that. I don't know why it's jumping in so fast. So we got another one. This will be a vote at the end. So pay attention to this one, everybody. There we go.
In the dirt, Notmeyer swings down.
All right. So we had runners on first and third. Runners on first and third with no outs. We have a dropped third strike on an 0-2 count. So here's our vote. Batter's out automatically because first base is occupied. It's a live ball, and the runners on first and third may advance. That's your first option. B, batter is out automatically because first base is occupied, but it's a dead ball, and the runners on first and third may not advance. Then option C, batter may attempt to reach first base safely because of the dropped third strike. So let's have everybody cast a vote. Mark's going to pop it up for everybody right now.
Are you seeing the poll up there? No.
I am not.
Okay, let me try it from scratch here.
And don't answer in the chat. Give Mark just a second. There we go. We got a poll up.
All right, we got about 70% of you have answered. Let me share the results.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody thinks it's A.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that is the right answer. It's a live ball situation. And because we had first base occupied, or first base was occupied, excuse me, the batter runner cannot try to go to first base. There were less than 2 outs. There was no outs to be exact. And so the runner cannot advance. It's option A. And the difference between A and B is that it is a live ball situation. All right. Good job, everybody. All right. A foul tip. That's a batted ball that goes sharp and direct to the catcher's hands or glove, and it's legally caught by the catcher. It's not a rebound unless first hitting the catcher's glove or hand and then caught immediately. It can't go from off the catcher's glove, then off their chest protector, and then caught. It has to go glove to hand. Foul tips are live balls, so runners can advance. There's a big difference between a foul tip and a foul. A foul ball is a dead ball situation and runners cannot advance. And you'll hear TV commentators oftentimes describe fouls as foul tips, and that's not the case. If it went into the ground, it's a foul ball. It's not a foul tip. And you want to treat it as a swinging strike. So umpires, you want to get in the habit of using your ears as well. You're always listening for a foul tip, and there's 2 distinct sounds. You'll get the sound of the ball off of the bat, followed very quickly by the sound of the ball going into the glove. So some examples. Let's listen to these and watch them.
Doesn't get any better. 1 ball, 1 strike. You know, run at the plate in the 8th inning. Boom, fouls it into the glove. He loved. Fastballs by him.
And so, not that I'm casting shade on the MLB umpires, but some of those mechanics are a little bit weak on the mechanic you use to show a foul tip, but it's the swipe of the hands, as Mark said, and then you hammer to show the strike. But it's a live ball situation. The umpires were not killing it in any of those situations. It wasn't a foul. All right. Okay, fair ball. A fair ball is a batted ball that settles on fair ground. It's touched in fair territory. It bounds past first base or third base on or over fair territory. It touches an umpire or player while fair. In flight, fair. If it's in flight, fair. out of the playing field. That means hit over the fence, or bounds over the fence in the outfield fence. I should say also a fair ball, if a ball hits a base and then goes into foul territory, that is a fair ball. It's the position of the ball that is important, not the position of the player. That's the status of the ball that's really important. A foul ball is a batted ball that it settles on foul territory between home and first base, or between home and third base. It bounds past first or third base on or over foul territory. So that's going to be, to the sides of the bases in foul territory. It first falls on foul territory beyond first or third base. So that's an airborne ball that hasn't touched the ground yet. And it can be in fair territory while it's in flight, even past first and third base, but then arcs into the foul territory where it contacts the ground for the first time. It's touched on or out over foul territory. That's one of the reasons why in our umpire clinics, umpires that are set up in the A position, you are standing in foul territory. You do not want to be standing in fair territory. And it touches any object that's foreign to the natural ground or over foul territory. So things like the screens for the fencing for the field, ball that touches the umpire, for instance, the home plate umpire that comes off the bat and then touches the umpire. That is a foul ball. And once again, it's the position of the ball that's important on this stuff. It's not the position of the player, it's the position of the ball. So it's that, here's a couple of examples that we've used these in the past. So in the first one on the left, we've got a player who's got, he's straddling the fair foul line. He's got his left foot in foul territory, but he's catching that glove over fair territory. So that ball is in fair territory. It's a fair ball. The second picture shows that player's got both feet in fair territory, but the ball is in foul territory. It's to the foul side of that looks like the first base line. So it's in the foul side of first base line. All right.
Let me just add one thing on that, Jim, from an umpiring standpoint. We talked about a position. You want to start out completely in foul territory so that if you're hit by a ball in the air, you know it's a foul ball. But when you've got a ball that's up in the air or bounding, you want to put your belt buckle on that line so you have the best angle at whether a ball is going to be touched or settled in fair or foul territory.
Yeah. Yeah. Kevin asked a question in the chat here. Ball touch is fair. So I'm assuming you're between home plate and say first base. It's touched fair territory, then goes directly over first or third base, and then lands in foul. Is that fair or foul? That's going to be a fair ball. The operative word is that it goes over the base. So if it had initially touched fair territory and then went into foul territory before getting to the first or third base, it would be a foul ball if it went past either of those bases on the foul side. But in your example here, you're asking if the ball has gone over the base, so that's going to be a fair ball. All right, we've got some votes coming up here. We got 3 examples of fair foul. You're going to make the call. Don't call it too soon. A lot to digest on this stuff. Here we go. All right. And vote away.
All right. Got a lot of people paying attention. They're jumping right on the poll. We've got almost 60% of people are voting.
Right.
And I'll share these results for you. 88% are saying foul ball on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good job, folks. That is the right answer. It's B. It's a foul ball. And when I roll these, by the way, we're only going to show them once because you as an umpire, you don't get the benefit of replay. So stick it in your mind and replay it there. This ball never was in fair territory. It was always in foul territory. And most importantly, it went past third base on the foul side of the bag. So it's a foul ball. All right, let's go to the next example. All right, once again, you get one view of this, fair foul.
One out of Martin.
That's a tough one. So go ahead and do the vote first.
All right, we got 60% of people are voting, and
Nice.
this is not quite as definitive.
It's not, and that's one of the reasons why I kept it in here, because it's not that clear. We as umpires don't always get nice, clean examples. This is a tough one, because it kind of looks like it may have hit off the batter's foot, which, because that's an inanimate object over foul territory, then that's a foul ball, if that's the case. But maybe it didn't. Maybe it just took an odd bounce. And so that's where you've got to use judgment. And if you are, by the way, if you are a base umpire and you see a batted ball that touches a batter's body, and maybe your plate umpire got blocked out by it and didn't see it, you can and should call foul ball. And once a ball is called foul, it is foul forevermore. It cannot be made unfoul. It is a foul ball. And I believe in this game, they actually ruled that it was not touched by the batter, but it sure kind of looked like it might have been. The points are that you got some hard judgments to make. And if you do see the ball that does go off of a batter, it is a foul ball, and you can call that a foul if you're the base umpire. That's why I use a base umpire. You're glued in on what the action at home plate on every pitch. You don't take a pitch off. You have to watch them all. All right, last one. And this is a doozy.
Plate, and on deck you got Liam Ferguson. That is a foul ball. I thought he called it foul. They're saying that's fair. That's the game.
So that's a good example that's similar to the question that Kevin Robinson asked in the chat earlier about, a ball that touches fair territory and then bounds over third base in this example, and then goes foul. Is it fair or foul? And so you have the third base umpire. This is a Little League Western Region game. And the third base umpire they have, and at this point, if they had a good pregame, it would have been the third base umpire's fair foul call. Now he looks like he's calling foul, but the home plate umpire also called fair on this one. So that's something you can't see particularly well. So just keep that in your mind here. You have third base umpire who looks like he called foul. You have a home plate umpire who looks like he called fair. Let's get a vote up here. Fair or foul? And if you saw this in the past, then and you know how it was ruled.
Yeah. And the votes are coming in, and fair foul is kind of neck and neck.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have the best of angles on this. It would be great if we could have seen something down the line.
Yeah.
Uh,
I can tell you that I was at this game.
yeah.
I was not on the field. I was at the gate in right center field, so I had the perfect angle. Ha ha. And
Mhm.
it
Yeah.
actually went to replay, and there wasn't enough evidence to overturn the plate umpire's call of fair, and this play ended the game and decided which team would go to Williamsport.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I said it emphasized the importance of good pregame. We should only have one umpire making a call if we've had a good pregame and we hold to those marks of responsibility, who's got what in which situations. If it had just been the third base umpire who made the call, then there never would have been a challenge on it. And because I don't think they can challenge. And Mark, you know the replay rules better than I, but I don't think they can challenge that.
they can, but it's very hard to turn a foul into a fair,
There you go. Okay.
especially
All
if
right.
anybody stops. And I'll also say that on this, the rules state that if more than one umpire makes a call and those calls conflict, then the crew is supposed to get together and come up with just that one call,
Yeah.
what it should be. You can't have two calls. You shouldn't have two calls, but if you do, then the crew has to get together and decide which call they're going to go with as a crew.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, Mark.
Yes, catching, very important part of this game. And this is not catch as in the catcher. This is what is a legal catch by any fielder. And there's a strict definition. And those of you of a certain age will recognize the late, great William Mays. And this is perhaps the most famous catch in all of baseball. And but it's secure possession of the ball in the hand or glove, held long enough to prove complete control of the ball. Release of the ball is voluntary and intentional. So hand or glove, complete control, voluntary release. And there's ways to prove the negative. If the ball drops to the ground because you collide with another player, collide with a wall, you fall down, and that ball comes out. That's not voluntary release. And so it is not a catch if any of those things happen. And if it's first touched by a fielder, but then it hits a member of the offensive team or an umpire and then it's caught by another defensive player, that is not a catch. It no longer is considered in flight. Now, if it hits another defensive player and then is caught, that ball is still in flight. But if it hits the player, then hits the fence and then gets caught, that's no longer in flight. So in flight is an important part of the definition of a catch. So watch this, get ready to vote. Is it a catch or not? And think about these factors: complete control, held long enough, voluntary release, and then hand or glove. But it's going to be in the hand or glove on this one.
Again. Towards center field, dropping. Great catch.
Okay, you don't always have the benefit of replay, but here you do. So,
Right.
what was that? Is it a catch? Is the batter out? Or did it get dropped on a safe or on a is a drop ball and is the batter runner then safe? The votes are coming in. Got 70%. People are quick on the draw over that. And a lot of people are liking the catch option. Let's see, share the results out there. 79% voted for the out on that. And it's a tough one to judge on whether that ball came out on the exchange or it came out before that or was never really in complete control by that defender. Is that ball bouncing around in the glove? Ultimately, it's umpire judgment that has to kind of hold the day on that. But you need, on something like that, umpire needs to come up and say, that's a catch, or no catch, no catch, whatever it is that you decide. And fortunately or unfortunately, you're going to be doing games that don't have television replay. And so it's what you have, even if some parent has it on video and they claim to tell you exactly what it is, you in real time have to make that decision. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about dead ball area. So this is places where the ball is no longer alive if it enters in. So if it goes beyond a fence, or even if it's just a chalk line or a row of cones that marks the sides of that. I think of the field at Sarah for Sunnyvale Little League. There's going to be just an out of play line between the dugout and the home run fence. If it enters the stands, the bleachers, the dugout, or the bench, there might be a camera well somewhere that somebody would have. Those are going to be defined during the pregame ground rules as being out of play. And if the ball gets stuck in the fence or in the backstop, even if it might, enter into the umpire's ball bag or get lodged behind the catcher's chest protector, all those are examples of balls that are no longer in play. And you're going to stop play, you're going to call time, and you're going to award bases. And if you've got base runners on base, they're going to be awarded one base on that, on a fly ball or a ball that, like this example that's listed here, fielder catches a fly ball, live ball territory, then carries it into a dead ball area or falls into a dead ball area. The batter can still be out, and each runner is awarded one base from their time of pitch base, but they would still need to tag up if it is a caught fly ball, and they could be subject to appeal. So these are just examples of times when you're going to have the ball's going to be out of play and you're going to be maybe awarding bases. There also can be times, and we'll talk about other base awards later on. Now, a tag has a little bit of a different understanding than a catch, but it's very, very similar. So here's the definition of a tag. Fielder touching a base with the body while holding the ball securely and firmly in the hand or glove. So this would be like on a force play, right? That any part of that fielder's body is touching the base. The ball has to be in their hand or glove. It can't be anywhere else. Couldn't be in the crook of their arm or underneath their leg. That's not being held securely and firmly in the hand or glove. It also means when you tag a runner, while you're holding the ball securely and firmly in the hand or glove, and that is the hand or glove that needs to be the one that touches the runner. You can't have the ball in one hand and tag with the other hand and have that be a legal tag. Now, on the catch of a thrown ball, the intentional and voluntary release is not a requirement. If somebody is coming to first base, the first baseman has the ball, the force has occurred, and the ball then later comes out, we can still have an out for that if they had the ball and had complete control of it before the runner got there. And then if the ball comes out later, then that doesn't matter because it's a different understanding of what that rule is on a thrown ball. It's different than it is on a batted ball. I think we have an example of that coming up.
Yeah. All right, we'll have a vote on this at the end.
Outfield very deep with the infield in. A lot of room over the heads of the infielders. This one too short. Come home with a force. They get the out there. Did he drop the ball? He did. Jake Martin could not hold on to it. Let's take a look at it from a better angle.
Let's see if he had it long enough. It looked like he caught it.
Okay. So this is a force play. Yeah, go back.
Yeah, went too far on that. So
we're going to run a poll. We're going to say, is the runner safe because he didn't voluntarily drop the ball? Or is he going to be out because he had control of the ball while touching the plate before the runner arrived? So let's have a vote on that. A, safe. B, out. And this is another tough one. We got 68%, 71%, 73%. And boy, the results are neck and neck. Let me share the results of what we have here. 55% to 45%. So on the field, this plate umpire called the runner safe after he saw the ball had come out. But I think on replay, that call would have been overturned because that catcher did have control of the ball while touching the plate before the runner got there, and the ball came out. The out had already happened when that ball came out. But it's umpire judgment, and you would have to look at that and say. But just the point is that the rules for voluntary release are different on a thrown ball, especially on a force play. Now, if that's a tag play and that ball comes out because of the runner sliding into that catcher, he's going to be safe. But on a tag play, it's going to be different. If there's complete control and the out happens and then the ball comes out after that, you can still have an out. I know it's a confusing thing, but that's what the rules say. That's a subtle difference there. All right. I talked about the ball needing to be in the hand or glove. Is this the hand or glove? No, the armpit is not securely being held. Now that ball could still be in flight, but you couldn't give a catch until he reaches up with either his glove or his throwing hand and puts that in his hand or glove. So just be aware that's the standard for a catch. All right. Now we talked a little bit about infield fly rule, and we're going to try to move quickly because we've only got 6 minutes left of our time. So what the infield fly rule does, it prevents the defense from getting a cheap double play. Ball has to be a fair fly ball, not a line drive, not a bunt. There have to be less than 2 outs. First and second have to be occupied, but first, second, and third can be occupied.
What?
The infielder with ordinary effort needs to be able to make that catch. Whether or not they actually make the catch doesn't matter. You have to make the decision while the ball's still in flight, probably at apex, and you want to point up a infield fly, batters out, or if the ball is near the line, if it has a chance to go foul, you would say infield fly if fair. Doesn't matter if the infielders are on the outfield grass. If they can make that play with ordinary effort, then you can make this call. The ball's going to be live, whether it's caught or not, runners may advance at their own risk, but if the ball is caught, runners are required to tag up as if like they would on any other fly ball. All right. Here is a video of this.
Eighth pitch of the at-bat to Herrera, and he popped it up. David Wright coming in to call. Infield fly rule invoked, batters out, and he remains out. And now the runner on first base is trapped. A player who didn't know the infield fly rule, and it'll be a double play if the Mets can execute the rundown.
Oh, no.
So in that situation, the runner didn't know the rule. He didn't have to run. The force was removed because the batter was out. But when he saw it drop, and this happens in Little League a lot, they're thinking, okay, I'm just stand on the base. I'm gonna be safe. And then the ball's dropped. They think, oh no, I gotta run. But they didn't have to. They weren't listening. And so that is that situation. Infield fly rule.
All right. Oh, got one more here.
All three outfield positions. Off the end of his bat, caught, and both runners back to the bag.
So we're seeing that as a line drive. It wasn't high enough for kind of the fielder to kind of settle under it. It's really not an infield fly situation. So it can't be a line drive, can't be a bunt. But and that's umpire judgment. How high is a fly? Really, if you're looking for a fielder to kind of be settling under it, not having to be kind of running to catch it, and it needs to be high enough to be considered a fly ball. So Jim's going to take us through local rule options, and then we're going to do a quick review and wrap up for tonight.
Yeah, just one more word on the infield fly. Infield fly can be caught in the outfield. It does not have to be caught in the confines of the infield. So it can be caught in the outfield.
It's just ordinary effort by an infielder, not in the infield.
So there's a few local league options, continuous batting order, traditional bat nine. Most leagues have adopted continuous batting order. The league may choose not to adopt the mercy rules, majors and below, 15 runs after 3 innings, 10 runs after 4 innings, or 8 runs after 5 innings. I don't believe any of our leagues have chosen not to adopt those, and hopefully they have not. The batter must remain in the box with at least 1 foot throughout the at-bat. I think we enforce that in District 44. And the uncaught third strike is not an out in majors. Once again, this is choosing to not enforce the rule. So those are the local league options. So this is what we covered tonight. New rules, there were a few of them, not a whole lot that affect the play, but a lot of kind of game management things. We went through equipment requirements. We went through what a pitch and the rules around pitchers, what those are. We talked about batting, including continuous batting order, the legal position in the batter's box, and we didn't talk about thrown bats actually, but it's not an out for a thrown bat. You can warn the player, but it's not an automatic out because he threw the bat. Balls. We talked about what a ball is, what a strike is, what a foul ball is, what a foul tip is, and intentional walk. There are 2 types of intentional walks. There's the verbal, and then there's throwing 4 wide ones to the batter. We talked about what a bunt is and what a fair ball and a foul ball are. Catch and no catch, the infield fly rule, and what the local league rule options are. It's a lot that we covered tonight. And this is not what we'll cover tomorrow. I should change this. It's what we'll cover on Saturday. That's 7 o'clock starting time. We'll talk about runners, what the baseline is, what runners interference is, and runners leaving early. It's a distinctive part of the majors and below form of baseball. Base awards for a ball thrown out of play, interference. There's runner interference, there's batter interference, and there's catcher interference. We'll talk about obstruction. There are two types of obstruction. There's type A, where there's a play being made on the obstructed runner or batter runner before they touch first base. There's type B, which is that's when there is no play being made on the obstructed runner. We'll talk about slides or attempting to go around, how to execute a proper appeal, and we'll talk about game management. There's a lot that we'll cover on Saturday night. Once again, not tomorrow night, Saturday night. And with that, I think, Mark, that's a wrap for our night tonight. But you and I will both hang on here for as long